Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Pulse with BP. I'm your host, Billy Parvatam. Folks, I'm so excited today to be joined by former Tech alumni football player Dwight Vick. He's currently the business owner at Vicktory Life. He's a former Virginia Tech lineman. He played there from 1994 to 1999. The first former player I've been able to talk to. Dwight, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate the platform. Anytime somebody wants to hear my insight, I'm cool with that, man. So I appreciate it.
For sure. So, what have you been up to these days? I mean, obviously, we all have been affected by this pandemic. I'm sure it's affected your job to some extent with your nonprofit. I mean, how have you been handling this whole situation?
Well, just to clarify, I have Victory Life LLC is for profit. My nonprofit is Victory Life Youth Sports. So that is my nonprofit, my 501c3. But to answer your question, because I have those two businesses, I've been extremely busy. And then I have my family. But I've used I've still been active. I'm still working, seeing clients. Believe it or not, you don't see too many 6'4", 6'5" former offensive linemen in the clinical field, but I am a licensed therapist. I do mentoring and counseling with youth here in Northern Virginia, in Fairfax, Fauquier, and Prince William County. I've still been doing that since, with the lockdown in February and March. I do a lot of media work interviews. I have my own podcast, the Legacy Podcast, with my co-host Danny Notes, and then I also have the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight, where I interview just important people, heroes in the community, role models, a lot of former Tech players, Lisa Weatherspoon, J.C. Price, Cornell Brown, J.C. Coleman, Aaron Rouse, Rania Whitaker, just so many, I can't even remember them all. So, it sounds like a lot. It is. I keep myself busy because I like working. And when you're done playing, you still competitive. So that kind of scratches the itch of being competitive, just being out and about and connecting with people such as yourself. So I enjoy the interactions.
You're a native of you're a native of Hampton, Virginia. What made you want to go to Virginia Tech?
Oh, that's a great question, man. Billy, it's one of those things, man. I love my time in Blacksburg, and I was heavily recruited. UVA, Florida, a lot of big name programs wanted me. I even looked at some smaller schools like Howard and Hampton University. I had a lot of options to choose from: East Carolina, Tennessee, Pittsburgh. But it came down to it felt right, man. The whole "this is home" mantra that they push. In 1994, as God, that sounds so long ago. I remember driving up there, never really been to Virginia Tech before. It was a program that did not have the tradition and pageantry that it has now. And I got there. I remember I actually went in December, and when it was cold, and it was right before Christmas break. And I came up there. My host was Lawrence Lewis. And I came with my mom and dad, and Billy Height, who's no longer coaching, but he's a DeMatha grad, longtime assistant of Virginia Tech, Beamer's right-hand man, hosted me. And I was hosted by Lawrence Lewis. And I just, went to some parties that Saturday morning. Back then, Virginia Tech they were in the Metro Conference. And they were playing basketball, went to the game, Virginia Tech won. And I just, man, it just felt good, Billy. It just felt real comfortable. I like the, colleges as far as their apartments they had. Everywhere I went, no matter what person I was around, female, male, no matter what race, color, creed, religion, everybody just welcomed me. And yeah, I can't explain it, but it turned out to be the great choice. It just felt good. And it was different from Hampton. When you grew up in Hampton and Newport News, those places are really, really urban, and it's different. At times, even sometimes, unfortunately, unsegregated. So the diversity I saw at Virginia Tech was really cool. Meeting people from Africa and all over the country, especially once I signed and came there, it just was really cool, man. And I always take pride that I tell people all the time that I was the first Vic at Virginia Tech. And I'll just add this, and this to answer your question. When I signed with Tech in 1994, I was the first guy from my high school in 94 to sign with them since 1985. There was a drought. And then when I signed with Virginia Tech, 4 other guys from my high school that played with me followed me there. Shelly Ellison, Myron Newsom, Walter Ford, actually 6. And then after that, a few years later, you had Tyrell Wilson, who was from Hampton High, Tyrod Taylor, and then, of course, my cousin Mike. So the guys from my high school kind of follow suit, and you almost wonder, and I don't think they chose Tech because of me, but if I don't open that door, you almost wonder, do you get those guys, Myron Newsom and great players like that. So I was happy to kind of change the trend from everybody going to UNC and UVA back in '94. I kind of feel like I kind of started things with opening that door.
Sure, thank you so much, especially for opening that door for a guy like your cousin Michael Vick to give us some of the greatest times we've had in Blacksburg. I have to ask you, because I've read that your favorite game when you were a player was the 98 27-20 overtime win against Miami. And I was looking at their roster. I mean, the NFL talent that these guys had: Edgren James, Ed Reed, Reggie Wayne, Santana Moss. I mean, what do you remember about that game?
The people you named. And it was hot, man. It was a night game. So at that time, we were playing in a primetime game, and the only other primetime game was Tennessee, Florida. And people that are older, like me, remember that's during the Peyton Manning years when Tennessee and Florida was the premier rivalry. It wasn't Alabama, Auburn. It was Ohio State, Michigan, but Tennessee, Florida was a rivalry game. And then Tech Miami became one of the premier rivalries. That was happening during my era at Virginia Tech. And I remember a hurricane actually, them being the Miami Hurricanes, but a real life hurricane was on the horizon. We had to play that game and get out of there. You would think, okay, a hurricane's coming, it'd be cool conditions. It might have been the most humid game I've ever played in compared to when I played my senior year, same season at Clemson. Clemson was at noon and it was very hot, but Miami, it was so humid. And it was like after the game, we had IVs. But I remember the talent. Like I remember seeing Ed Reed playing against him, Dan Morgan, Damian Lewis, Reggie Wayne, Santana Moss. Butch Davis was the coach at the time. You could tell he was building something special. And it was just really crazy to see the talent that they had. But, we had talent too. And we hadn't lost to them really since '94. And we had a little bit of streak going. And we took it personal. I mean, when you're warming up in Miami, on the sideline, you'll see guys like Bernie Kosar and Warren Sapp, J-Lo and A-Rod, Puff Daddy. It's South Beach. And, Miami's playing the primetime game. You're going to see stars. But being a Virginia guy, being a guy that has a lot of Commonwealth pride, a guy from 757, and me and Pearson Prelo and Keon Carpenter and Corey Moore, Al Clark, Derek Smith, we didn't care, and we wanted to beat them. And they jumped on us, man. And the energy, and I'll tell you, that's the old Orange Bowl Stadium. That it doesn't exist anymore. But there was a mystique there. You could tell, you looked around, you knew about all the great teams that had played there. So to win there, after winning there again in '96, winning my senior year in '98, in overtime on the road to go, 3-0, I think we were both ranked. It was really special. And that was my favorite game because they still show it on Classic Sports too, if you have ESPN Classic. So it was great. It was cool to beat some guys that went on to go into the NFL and have great careers, and even guys on my team that went on to the NFL and have great careers. I mean, it was fun. And, I will always appreciate that game. I feel like that game kind of solidified Tech, as, belonging in the Big East. And, we had beaten them in '95. We had beaten them in '96. We beat them in '97. So '98, it was kind of like that's 4 years in a row. And then, of course, everyone's familiar with Tech. In '99, they played for a national championship. And Mike and company beat them 43-10. So that was 5 years in a row. And it was like, okay, can y'all finally give us our respect? We know you guys are the U, but can you respect us now? So I'm just glad to be part of that streak and not leaving Virginia Tech not only with 2 great degrees, but never lost to Miami.
Sure. Did Ed Reed and those guys talk trash even then?
Oh my gosh. Miami, so if you ever seen the 30 for 30 documentary with Miami, they are trash talkers. Now we do too. We Tech, especially back then, we talked a lot of trash, which made the game fun because they didn't want to acknowledge us as their rival because it was about Florida State, heck, even Florida. but they knew we were coming and they respected us, but didn't want to admit it. But it was a lot of, I can't repeat what was said, but a lot of, F-bombs and skirmishes after the whistle, some real grimy stuff went on. And it was fun. I mean, even talking about it right now, man, that was the great thing about competition. It was physical and it was, Miami brings that out of you. I don't even know if you remember when Tyrod and those guys beat them that one year. They went down there and Tyrod scored and he threw up the U in the end zone. Matter of fact, man, I mean, people don't remember, not everybody, but even in '96 when we beat them down there, the mascots got arrested. The Hokie Bird got arrested because he got in a fight with the mascot. I think it's the duck or whatever, Iris or whatever. So yeah, that shows you when you got mascots getting arrested and talking trash, it's real.
How special was the 1995 season? I mean, you guys beat UVA, a big comeback win. I think Tech was ranked 13, UVA was ranked 20 at the time. And then you beat Texas in the Sugar Bowl. I've even heard Coach Beamer say that game was the one that really put Virginia Tech on the map as a national program. I mean, what do you remember about that 95 season?
I don't like to look back as far as stay stuck in a moment, but I always love to reflect on that season because it did so much for me as a person. It was a special year. And I feel like Virginia Tech fans should always point to that season. I think the guys in the 80s, 87, Beamer's first year, there were some other great moments, but the 95 season basically put Virginia Tech on the map. Many younger fans or even people who were around may say, oh, it was, Mike Vick and the 99 team because they played on the biggest stage. Of course, but you don't get to the 99 national championship game against Florida State without winning the Sugar Bowl and beating UVA in 95 on the road when UVA was the ACC champs. They were co-ACC champs along with Florida State. And UVA, that was their first time beating Florida State. And Florida State was loaded that year with Warwick Dunn and some great players. And UVA was loaded. They had Anthony Poindexter, Percy Ellsworth, Mike Groh, Al Groh's son. Aaron Brooks was a backup quarterback. Jamie Sharper. I can go on and on. They were loaded, and we beat them down there, and they jumped on us. They were up on us 29-14, and to come back, and that's when UVA was really good, and that's when the Virginia Tech UVA rivalry was at its best. And I've always said when both schools are great, that's how it should be. It's great for the Commonwealth. And beating UVA that year and then going on to beat Texas, there were no conference championship games back then for us or even the ACC. It was cool and it was special. And that 95 season, you're talking about some of the best that ever do it. Cornell Brown, J.C. Price, Chris Malone, Antonio Banks, Torian Gray, just so many great people. Marcus Parker, Ken Oxendine, Jay Haygood, T.J. Washington. Some of these people may not remember them, but if you do your due diligence and research them, that 95 season, you had some of the best leaders, Myron Newsom. And, 95, we also beat Miami for the first time. It was a lot of firsts that year that ended up subsequently raising the expectations for what you have now with the Virginia Tech program, because in 95, you beat Miami, which had Ray Lewis, and they were ranked, and we were 0-2. And then you win, you win 10 straight to finish the season top 10, and then, you win the conference, and you beat Donovan McNabb in Syracuse, West Virginia. Just a special, special season for Beamer and the coaches and the players. I was a young buck on that team, but I had a role. I was a backup lineman, but just being in the practices and just seeing the leadership that took place and the intense practices, it was just remarkable what we did that year. And I think if you don't have the 95 season, you don't have Virginia Tech the following seasons. If you finish that season 4-8, I think, I'm not going to say Beamer gets fired, but I think you see changes. I think you see things happen where, the program may not ascend the way it did.
Dwight, something I've always wondered is, you talk about these great games you played, the 98 Miami game, the 95 season against UVA in Texas. How different would your playing career have been had you played in the social media age? I mean, I think back to probably what's the last big win the Hokies had against a big program? Ohio State a couple years ago. I mean, to me, you talk about those Miami wins, those UVA wins, and the Texas win in 95. I think, man, you guys would have blown up all over social media.
Oh, man, it's a gift and a curse because, now I'm active on social media. I got, maybe 6,000 followers. I got 1,000 Instagram followers. I'm on Facebook, got 3,000 I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, I have people that check for me that love what I do, and I love the interaction I have. But I'm glad I have it now. I'm mature. I'm an OG. If I had it at 20, 19, I don't know. God knows what I would have posted. Because social media can be the gift where you can connect with great people like yourself and you meet some really cool people. And then sometimes it's like, I'm mad, I'm gonna go here and vent, and then it can be misconstrued. To answer your question more in detail, I think if you had social media back when we played, we would have been rock stars because it's very similar to the Fab Five, very similar to what Duke did with Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley. It hadn't been done yet. You know, Duke repeated and they were followed with Laettner and Bobby Hurley. Same thing with the Fab Five or UNLV with Stacey Augmon and Larry Johnson. It was a first, it was fresh, it was new. Well, 95 was the invention of the lunch pail. That was the first year it was brought in. You know, you go to the Sugar Bowl and you play on New Year's Eve and you beat an historic program like Texas. And then you cement the bowl streak that got started in 93 with the Sugar Bowl win and you beat UVA. I know, and that's when the Commonwealth Cup got started in that time period. Oh, we would have been off the chain. It would have been just really fun because the fan interaction was really basically, you know, when they were at games or at fan day or at the stadium or if you were signing autographs. But other than that, you only interacted with the people on campus or with your family and friends. So it would have been fun. But we also had some characters, man. So I'm sure some people would have probably gotten in trouble. You know, some videos might have got posted because social media, like I said, man, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's the gift and the curse. It can be great or it can be detrimental depending on what mood you're in when you post stuff. But I am envious in a good way of what these guys now have at Tech. I mean, the uniform combos, the fan interaction, the followers, to get a chance to talk to great people like yourself and just connect with people. Hey, what's up? Great game. Or sometimes, you know, you need to log off because you lost to Pittsburgh by 30, you know. But still, knowing who's checking for you is really cool, man. And I do like the fact that they have that. But ultimately, man, I think I'll take what I had those years at Tech with just being able to assume what you think someone was thinking versus seeing a tweet about it, because that can maybe rile up some emotions you're not ready for.
You mentioned you have a famous cousin named Michael Vick. How often do you keep in touch with him? He seems to be doing a great job with Fox Sports getting in the broadcasting business.
Yeah, I was just talking to Mike. He texted me on Thanksgiving, man, and we text often. We're both really busy, but we're close. We know in the summertime, I think if COVID wasn't around right now, we usually connect around the holidays, or I, you know, come down or go up to Maryland or go down to Hampton if he's doing a football camp. I love him, man. You know, we're close. You know, we don't get a chance to hang out like we used to. I have a wife and 3 kids, 2 businesses, podcast, you know, caseload, clients, business deals I'm dealing with. And he's in the same boat. I mean, he's an iconic figure. So I always take pride in the fact that I think his story is remarkable. I think it should be celebrated as far as showing you can make some poor choices and come back and give back. And I'm just so proud of who he's become and to have a role in that and getting him to Tech. I didn't get him there, but I recruited him there. I joke Frank Beamer, every time I see him, I'm like, yo, where's my statue? I got you, Mike and Marcus. But nah, it's cool to have Mike doing well, man. Like, it's just, I see him on TV. He's coming into his own. I'll watch an interview, you know, when I'm working on Sundays in my office here, and I'll text him, hey, that was a great piece you did with Deshaun Watson, or I love it. He was like, thanks, cuz, you know, we chop it up. He asked how my kids are doing, and I ask about his. So it's a blessing to see him doing so well, man. And I'm proud of Hokie Nation for those that stood behind him when he was going through an adverse situation in his life, a low moment. I'm proud of the coaches that stood by him. And I think he's a definition of, you know, what it means to rise above and recognize your shortcomings and become a better person because of that versus blaming the system or blaming racism or anything you want to blame. He didn't do that. He took ownership. And there's a life lesson that we all can learn from that.
The number one question I wanted to ask you, Dwight, coming into today is, I'm sure you saw it. I saw it, the Michael Vick 30 for 30. Now, I have some friends in Hampton that said that, you know, some of the portrayals of the town, the 757 region, were not accurate, and then people have disputed some of the other facts of the documentary. So I wanted to ask you, how accurate was that 30 for 30 documentary on your cousin?
Well, it's funny. Some people ask me, you know, why was I not in? I said, well, I talked to the producers, but looking at it now, I'm glad I wasn't, because I think sometimes, as you mentioned, stuff can be misconstrued, one quote taken out of context. And I thought it should have been all about Mike anyway. I'm glad they did talk to guys like Ricky Bussell and his mom and Aunt Tina and those guys and those ladies, excuse me. But at the end of the day, I think people that have an opinion about what's accurate, that's their opinion. And I can take you to Newport News right now, and you can see crime and poverty and hopelessness. And then I can take someone else and they can say, oh, this is not that bad. It's all about perspective. I know when I saw it, it was accurate because I lived through it, not only growing up with it in that area in Newport News and in Hampton. I lived in Newport News and Hampton, but also I grew up in it and I was with Mike the entire time everything was going down. So from my perspective, when I watched it, it wasn't really that many surprises because I knew about the details and who was involved. But listen, the Tidewater area is a beautiful place, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Williamsburg. But I can tell you right now, if you think that what Mike showed in East End was false, then I don't know what part of East End Newport News you've been to. The Tidewater area is a very unique area. You have beautiful places like Williamsburg, York County, beautiful parts of Chesapeake, but then in some parts of Norfolk and in Newport News, it's rough. And I don't, it was like that in the '90s. I think that's why you have such a great story with guys that come from down there, because we learn how to be resilient at an early age. I've interviewed some great people like Roniel Whitaker, who's from Norfolk, Sharon Stith, who grew up down there. And you can go on and on. You can even talk to guys like Dre Bly, who played at Western Branch, who's coaching at UNC. They're going to tell you the same story. It's just like the Richmond area, 804, beautiful community, beautiful parts of Richmond. But, some of the South Side parts, you can literally get killed if you go to the wrong area. And I think it's okay to embrace the fact that some of that stuff needs to improve. But there is an element of crime and poverty that contributes to some of those guys' mindsets that come up and grow up down there. But you can watch a documentary, Billy, and you can get caught up in details and things like that. The point is, I'll say, what is the message you got from it? Did you understand the importance of being true to yourself and overcoming adversity and not making bad decisions, learning who your real friends are, the importance of treating animals correctly and appropriately? That's what you got to get out of it. In the mindset of what trauma is, because if you come from certain areas, now I got my therapist hat on, but trauma is real and exposure is real. It does play a part. And I think take the message, again, I can't force you to agree with me, but I think people should take the message that it's important to overcome and make good decisions and learn that you need to be true to yourself and not get caught up with, making bad decisions, because it can cost you your career or your life, and not really get caught up with details about, what happened and that's not how it is. Okay.
For sure, and definitely a great documentary. I definitely enjoyed it. I wanted to ask you more about the current affairs of the current stage of the Virginia Tech program. If you were someone who was trying to get recruits to come to Blacksburg, which I'm sure you already do in some aspect informally, what would be your pitch to recruits? Why should they come to Virginia Tech?
Oh, that's a great question. I know right now we're not the program that you mentioned in comparison speaking. When I was there, we've fallen off quite a bit. I don't think we're as bad as it seems, because 5-6 is a bad record, but it's not 4-8. I think you got to take into account a lot of things that happen with COVID and attrition, injuries, contact tracing. There's still a lot of guys on that team that's going to be in the NFL. Very talented players. I think if I was recruiting, I would start, this is my mindset. The name of the school is Virginia Tech. And I would really try to repair and rebuild relationships that need to be repaired and work on recruiting your state. I'm going to say this until God takes my last breath. But if you are a head coach or part of a coaching staff in recruiting, you have to win your state before you win other states. It's great. I like players from Texas and California and Maryland and Florida. Florida's always been good to Virginia Tech, DC, whatever. But you got to win the state. And when you win your state and you get a lot of your top players, the Commonwealth is a great state. And when you get those players from that state, it proves dividends and it helps your program tremendously. There's a reason why Ohio State and Alabama, Clemson, Stanford, and Michigan and Penn State camp out in Virginia. They always get in Virginia guys. Ricky Slade Jr. from Northern Virginia, Devin Ford, all those guys, Deshaun Hand, who went to Alabama from Woodbridge. You know, there's a guy at Notre Dame, I can't pronounce his name, but he's from Bethel High School, you know, Hampton, Virginia. Pittsburgh just signed 4 players from the Tidewater Hampton Roads region. It's no secret like it was when I was growing up. Virginia is not no longer the best kept secret. So I would sell guys to come and Tech, look, we're trying to return to those glory days. We need you to be a part of it. Listen, recruiting is selling a pitch and getting kids to buy into your vision and your values as a coach. And Beamer came in and made no doubt about it. When he sat in my living room with Coach Wright in front of me and my parents, he said, I need you to come here to become a better person, to get a degree, and also be a part of winning some games and play against some great competition. And he preached Virginia. He preached staying home. And he sold me on that. Then me and then Todd Washington and Ken Oxendown, Marcus Parker, and a lot of guys came in, and everything he told us came to fruition. And I think that's what you got to do. You got to repair and establish relationships and get kids to understand they can be part of something special. I would say, look, right now, Clemson's the best program along with Alabama in the country, and they play in your conference. We need to build something to knock them off. We need to get talent. You can come help us restore the faith in Virginia Tech football and help win a Coastal Division title against great teams like Carolina and Miami. The ACC is not the SEC, but I would say you can play against some great teams and be part of something big. And sounds kind of maybe corny or maybe a little bit extra, but that's what recruiting is, selling a dream and getting kids to buy in. And they will if they can feel like they're going to, play and be part of it. And I think you should start in your own backyard first, not so much Texas or Minnesota or California. Granted, I've always said if a kid's talented and he wants to be a Hokie, get him. But don't lose sight of the fact that you got guys who grew up on Virginia Tech football, winning, watching Tyrod Taylor, David Wilson, Eddie Royal. They know those guys. And I'm talking about guys much younger than me who may not remember me as much, but they know about the guys I just mentioned. Cam Chancellor is still an icon. You can get the guys, maybe not the 5 stars, because why would you go to Ohio State and Clemson or Alabama? But the players ranked 12th, 13th, 15th, 9th that want to stay in state, get them. And I just think right now you can get people. Boston College had a great recruiting class, Pittsburgh. Recruiting is just really about getting the right kids. I think sometimes we overthink things. If a kid wants to play and believes in you and you have a relationship with his family, his trainers, his high school coach, you can get kids. As far as the state of the program, I think next year Virginia Tech's got to win more football games. And it just comes down to just hopefully having more normalcy, having a preseason where Justin Hamilton, who I think is a good coach, has the potential to be great, has time to put his scheme in, time to bond with his players. He started the season with a newborn baby while having COVID. That's really hard. And casual fans don't really understand sometimes the importance of a preseason. But even on the high school level, you got to have a preseason. So I'm optimistic. I know there was a contingency of fans that want change. I get it. But I thought Witt was honest about why he didn't do it. And you know what? If you're going to go all in on your coach, to me, it's whatever. I don't get paid to make that decision. I just want to see a better product on the field. I want my Saturday afternoons and evenings to be filled with joy and jubilation. I don't want to be sitting around tweeting about keep the faith. I'm over losing. When Tech's my favorite team. I don't have an NFL team or NBA team. So I follow Tech, and it helps when they're winning for me.
How often do you have a chance to come down to Blacksburg to see a game?
With my lifestyle and my schedule, not like I used to. I think last year, not this year, last year was the first time I had not come to a spring game in almost 20 years. But this is going to sound funny to some that check this interview out, but I actually like going to road games. So like when they played at Maryland or UNC or Duke, because, we weren't in the ACC when I was playing. So some of these stadiums I've never been to. So I want to go and see it. So I get the Blacksburg. I came down and spoke. I was the keynote speaker one year, 2013, for the memorial service day of 9/11. Um, I give back when I can, but not like I used to. Just having two teenage children, one's a junior, another's a freshman, and my youngest is a fifth grader. I don't have the time coaching and all the things I do to get down there. But when the game's on, I watch it. And I DVR even while I'm watching it so I can watch it again. But it's hard. I live in Nova now, Northern Virginia. I've been up here for almost 20 years. And it's only 3.5 hours away. But, getting on 66 to 81, if you go over there, that's a long weekend when you can be doing stuff here. So I don't get back as much. When I do, though, I tell people all the time, man, it is always a great time. And I don't mean you're like euphoric where we're partying, because I don't do all that anymore. But it just feels right when I come back. I just love that place, man. I really do.
I know your pain for sure, being from Falls Church, Virginia. But I wanted to ask you about Coach Beamer. I mean, we all know how much he's meant to this program, and he was your coach for the 5 years you played for the Hokies football team. I mean, do you have a great story you can share about Coach Beamer?
Beamer was cool, man. I don't really have people ask me that. Um, Beamer, man, like, I mean, he I don't have a story as far as like, something we're gonna be on the floor laughing. It's more so just what he meant to me and just watching him carry himself and how he allowed us to be ourselves, but still helped us become men. When you play college football, you deal more so with your position coach. So at that time, it was J.B. Grimes and Coach Steinspring and even Danny Pearman, who's now at Clemson coaching. But Beamer he was a leader. He was just really cool. He would wear those sports jackets and walk around. He looked like a mobster, but not like he was a killer, but just like, he was an OG. He had the whistle and he had his papers and he would talk to you and he'd be like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then he would sometimes, roast you. But at the same time, man, like we didn't have the Beamer that the younger guys got. When you see him dancing and doing all the different things, Beamer wasn't doing that with us. But I think for him, the one thing I take, not one, but one of the best things I take from him is he just treated everybody great. The servers at the dining halls, the janitorial staff, the maintenance, the trainers, his assistants, walk-ons, backups. He just treated everybody respectfully and like with class, and he made tough decisions. Even when he had to get rid of players, he didn't want to. But, if you do it to yourself, you continually get in trouble. He's got to hold you accountable. And he allowed us to be ourselves. And he also was really cool about, like, one story I think is important to share. In 1995, that great season, that integral season that set the tone for everything we have now, the racial climate, unfortunately, was very similar to what we have now in 2020. And on a bye week, Jim Barron, J.C. Price, a lot of the African-American players, our leaders, Jay Haygood, everybody thought it was going to be important for us to go to D.C. to be part of the 1995 Million Man March to show unity amongst the African-American communities and different religious groups. And we traveled from Blacksburg. It was a last-minute decision, but we all carpooled to D.C. But we met with Beamer. We had Beamer meet us in his office. It was late at night, like late. And, he didn't make us feel guilty. He was like, what do I need to do to help make sure y'all get there? Mind you, we're in the middle of a winning streak early in the season when we started off 0-2. And his first reaction, do I need to get you a bus? Do I need to make sure, you guys have rental cars, within the NCAA parameters? And it was really cool for him to step up because he knew that was important to us as young African-American men. And that's what he taught me how to just be patient and even kill, even as a father and as a coach, which isn't always easy to do, man. So when you play for one of the best to ever do it, it has a lifelong impact on you. And the only thing I regret is that we couldn't bring him a national championship. And it just sucks, man, because you don't deserve anything in life. But at the same time, I always feel like when you earn certain things, you should be able to get them. Like, I think he earned the right to be a national champion because the way he ran a great program, he did things the right way. And him and Cheryl and his whole family, they're great people. And I played with Shane. Shout out to my guy, Shane Beamer, the head coach of South Carolina. So I'm happy to see him carry on his father's legacy.
Thank you so much, Dwight, for that. And you've been so gracious with your time. So my final question for you is I wanted to get off the field for a second, talk about Vicktory Life. What inspired you to start these businesses?
You know, man, it's crazy, man. Vicktory Life, the name came to me years ago, Vicktory. And just for your viewers that check this out, I'm not that much of an egomaniac. It doesn't have to be about me, but I feel like God spoke to me one day, and I was like, I'm gonna go with Vicktory Life. I had a previous business called College Prep World, but I was in a partnership with a few guys. One of them being a tech grad, Eric Thompson. He was a tech grad, but I wanted to branch off and do my own thing. I had a vision, and it came to me. And one reason I chose Vicktory Life is I like the way it flowed. Plus, here in Northern Virginia, if you Google Vicktory Life, it's like a bunch of nonprofits and churches. So I was like, I'm not changing my name, but I want to keep that name. So I said, Vicktory Life, Vick, and I put it in there. And plus, everybody calls me Vic, you know what I'm saying? Because of football, you go by your last name. But it was cool, man. And my wife came up with the leave a legacy part. So I remember one night I was like, I got to find a tagline. And I'm sitting there, love, laugh, leave. I was like, no, I'm not a Hallmark card. And she was like, how about leave a legacy? She took her notepad. How about leave a legacy? And I was like, that's it. And I graduated Virginia Tech with 2 degrees, bachelor's in family and child development and also sociology. And I always knew when my career was going to be over, I was going to work in the clinical field of therapy and counseling. And I'm licensed, so I'm a licensed clinician. And I ended up getting 2 additional degrees from Liberty. I started off at Virginia Tech in my grad program, but because I was much older, I had to kind of expedite things. So I went online. I did do some in-person classes, but I got 2 masters from Liberty in family therapy and human services. And basically, I pretty much knew I wanted to do this. So I'm here in my office now, and I knew I wanted to do the practicing, so I started Vicktory Life, and I love helping. I had counseling, individual family therapy, mentoring, high school internship program, and then Vicktory Life Youth Sports. I wanted to give back in a different way. Vicktory Life LLC, we have contracts in Northern Virginia, so I work and service kids who are dealing with depression, anxiety, truancy, oppositional defiant disorder, families that are dysfunctional, but they need help, healing and help, abuse victims. So I spend my day and my nights helping people. But then because I love sports, I was like, let's go with Vicktory Life Youth Sports. I got my P. Diddy and I wanted to expand. So I went Vicktory Life Youth Sports, and we take donations, it's tax deductible, but that allows me to we have the Lady Legends AAU program, our girls team, the team I coach, class of 2024, my son's team, they're in 9th grade, and then another team coached by Cody, and my assistant coach who coaches with me, shout out to Charlie Faison. We just went to give back and help kids here in the Prince William County, Manassas area. And Vicktory Life Youth Sports allows us, it's not just about sports. We do parent symposiums, camps, academic stuff where we really help kids learn the importance of grades, being a complete student athlete. We're doing a toy drive right now that ends tomorrow. We're going to do a clothing drive, canned food drive. Community service is something I'm big on. We're going to do some stuff with breast cancer awareness. So Vicktory Life Youth Sports allows me to give back and also take donations to pour that money and funds into the kids right here in this community I live in. So I'm blessed, man. I'm grinding. I'm working hard. Just trying to leave a legacy, to make sure people understand that it's bigger than you. And when it's all said and done, when I'm done living this life, people can say, Dwight Vick made a difference, and he helped a lot of people. And that's what it's about, man.
Dwight, thank you so much for everything you do. I love all the things you do, whether it's staying, intact with the Virginia Tech football program or doing the great work you're doing with your businesses. I love everything you do, and I want to thank you again for this conversation today. I really enjoyed it.
No, thank you, man. Thanks for reaching out. This is fun. This was cool, man. And now I got to get back to work. Now you got me reflecting. I'm in here reflecting about some great times and even some tough times, but they helped me become a man. So this was fun. I appreciate you.
For sure. Thank you so much to Dwight Vick from Vicktory Life, a former Virginia Tech football player, for joining us today. This has been the latest edition of The Pulse with BP. I'm your host, Billy Parvatam. Thank you so much, folks, and we'll see you next time.